Can you do that? No?
Will you have these online, or can we?
Yes, so we'll be sharing this back out. We've got a Facebook page, we've got a Twitter, we're getting all the social medias up so we can share it back with y'all. All right, who wants to go first? Your team just smashed and you're so proud of life. All right, Taylor, bring it up.
Get it out the way.
Want me to hold it for you?
So focusing on the last two boxes, crime and violence was my group. If my group members, can you raise your hand just so people can see? Thank you. So we talked about stories that still need to be told around negative sort of stereotypes and stories related to crime and violence in Detroit. Some things that came up was that crime is in all urban centers, not just in Detroit. And those narratives need to be uplifted as well. We need to sort of compare other crime centers to Detroit's crime. Positive stories on young Black males need to be told, since they are a large part of the prison industrial complex. Stories and documentation on creative young students in Detroit. Daily lifestyle narratives, regular lifestyle narratives of what people are doing on a daily basis to sort of counteract this crime-driven lifestyle narrative. Environmental design around crime and how that influences people's lifestyle and leads them into crime is an important area as well. What are the infrastructures needed to support these narratives? We talked about social media. We talked about the importance of social capital, using traditional forms of media such as news outlets, press releases, and then in real life organizing, doing things like this and having one-on-one conversations with community leaders and people of the community is very important. So.
Thank you. So let's give it up for crime and violence.
Okay, so our group met and talked about gentrification. So in terms of what do we need to create, some of the themes that came up were building together, entering communities respectfully, entering communities as a resource, all movement work directed by the community, and respecting community and history and the elders in that community. And then as far as structural needs, we have addressed disconnections and lack of connections, a community organization kind of map so that you know about the community work that's happening in different communities, a way to fuel existing work, spaces, projects, and initiatives, outlets for this work to be shared with people, community training for how to respectfully enter and exit community spaces, community dues, and a really big need for creating spaces for diversity.
Give it up for gentrification. There's got to be a better way to do that.
All right, so my group, please raise your hand if you're talking about blight. Awesome. Thank you guys for this list. Stories we need. We need to hear about the families, the family-owned homes, the neighborhood history, and that includes the inconvenient multinational agenda that was perpetrated on Detroit. The stories of displacement, scenes of neighbors doing things, sharing together, as well as organizations that are helping neighbors, and the homeless experience. People that are empowering themselves, sharing, and really putting a human face on how much love, no matter how much money somebody has, but how much love is between us. The ecosystem. We need experts, legal, economic, etc. That kind of validation, the international aspect, and what is our responsibility as a global city to getting it out to the globe, and healing justice practitioners.
All right, so first of all, my group actually wrote treatments. So we got in, we were really specific. So we actually may have just like bum rushed this whole like thing, so. I'm not even trying to battle, I'm just saying, oh, like.
Humble brag, you know, I mean, we just, you know.
We're project ready, I don't, you know. So,
What we all talking about?
the first thing we were talking about is race, class, and what we also brought into was this idea of marginalized communities. Marginalized communities and things like that. So we had to group in larger conversations with with race. So the first thing we got is a definition of justice. And so just to read that real quick, justice is a balance between people guaranteeing that no one is mistreated and guaranteeing that those who need help the most get the most help. So that was our definition of justice. Ideas that we had were, we were talking about how Detroiters are hardworking, responsible, resilient. We talked about formats, Detroit Story Lab type of archive to get through these issues or talk about these issues, talk about the rich heritage of innovation, and once again, resilience of Detroiters. There's a treatment. Former Black Panther purchases a home, takes over a vacant land. Things ensue. So it's detailed. So also we're talking about using film to facilitate conversations. We're talking about love stories. We're also talking about fictional pieces that address racism and conditions in Detroit that don't exist, and placing them here in kind of in a fictional setting where these things are actually happening. So we're talking about what we need. So once again, specifics. Spike Lee was mentioned.
He was?
Yeah.
Detroit, Iran.
We talked about the need for distribution. I think that was brought up. We also talked about specific camera rigs. So we talked about a location truck, a crane, everything in the truck. We also talked about security for filming as infrastructure, RE 10Ks, 20Ks, 1Ks. So you get the point. We know what we want, and we're trying to bring it right to Detroit. So
Give it up.
Okay, so the group that I was working with, we were working on the white savior narrative. And what are some of the image projects that are needed? We have a hands-on kinetic visual storytelling project is needed. An animated Detroit superhero, what would a Detroit superhero look like for real series? We need webisodes, a web series of Detroit based on projects that are ongoing, that is always flowing every day, telling our stories. We need installations that are called Sharing My Neighborhood with Your Neighborhood, and what that would look like. I know, right? My group. We need a documentary to teach students about Detroit history through possibly family portraits, reaching back into their history, understanding their family was here before the gentrifiers were here. We need a counter film to follow the recently released film that was funded by John Hance on his land grab. We need a counter film to follow that documentary around as it goes to Sundance and tell the real story. And get this, we need a filming of what is the effect of the white savior narrative on the psyche of the city project. Okay, and then the infrastructure that we needed. Of course, equipment, We need back-end help desperately, producers to keep it under and within budget. We need help with the dissemination of resources, a cadre of volunteers that are in it for the long haul, long-term apprenticeships, codification and a structure for skills bank programming, and folks can be matched with industry professionals and mentors, and we need Detroit-based, those are the industry professionals, Detroit-based industry professionals to help us out.
Awesome. Give it up.
So I really believe that competition is capitalism, but I had a pretty dumb group, so. Anyways, I got really excited about some of the ideas we came up with for stories that need to be told. We came up with a few, so I'll just kind of pull some out. A story about so ours is blank canvas. So that's, Detroit is a blank slate, anybody can come in. So stories about mid-century Black Detroit, stories about migration, mostly forced migration of marginalized populations through the city, in and out of the city, but also from the south to the north, and that type of migration. Stories about cooperative housing, the history of the Delray area, environmental racism. There was a really dope idea about a story about how nature prevails and how you can hear nature singing, and so that could be a really cool thing. Narrative projects about the Onion House, houses that have a bunch of layers, and stories about all the lives that have been lived in houses here, and about Black home ownership. Stories about ritual performance art, or actual spaces for ritual performance art. Flipping the scripts on the two Detroits, showing the way that poverty basically is really prevalent in Midtown and downtown, where they try to really promote this story of revitalization, right? And then in the neighborhoods, there's hidden wealth and unknown wealth and prosperity. So infrastructural type things that folks would imagine and really love to have are places to record oral histories and actually creating a space for a living archive. Installations in homes, but not in the way that art installations usually do it and then demolish it, but doing it in a way that does some type of art installation and then makes the home livable for folks. Incentivized video festivals and spaces for folks to share their work and really be motivated to put out work about this narrative, or about any narrative in the city. Repurposing buildings for video studios, and for youth to be able to come and experiment with moving image and media projects. Media strategy trainings. There was an idea about promoting renewable energy and having that be owned by community, and documenting stories of young Black musicians learning how to play instruments.
Yeah. We're doing everything on time. So just very briefly, we wanted to see if y'all wanted to popcorn out. Did you hear any patterns or commonalities across the 6 projects? Anything that was there's some projects that could serve a few.
Community-owned facilities and equipment.
Community-owned facilities and equipment. Great. I saw another hand start to slide up back over here. No? Keep it to yourself now? Okay, cool. Anyone else? Yes.
I think a pattern that I heard was we are the experts of our own experiences as Detroiters.
We are the experts of our own experiences as Detroiters. Yes.
I had a comment about the white savior thing. I mean, if you look at the history of Detroit, there were a lot of Caucasian people here, and just one thought to me is, a person of color, a person that's biracial, a person that's multicultural, that as we move forward, I think this whole idea of multiculturalism and having the Big Ten idea to make sure people are included.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think in the narrative of the white savior or those type of things, maybe we might want to work on the verbiage of that, because it's not inviting. It's more of I understand the need of respect and certain races and type of coming from maybe Caucasian or something, but it also is in reverse. I've seen that as
I think that's the absolute point, is that we don't want to invite white supremacy into this construct of this
No.
space.
I'm not talking about white supremacy. I'm talking about having a multicultural city. This is a multicultural city.
Right, so how to make sure that there's
Yes,
a
how to make
multicultural
sure that this
narrative.
is open to as many people as possible.
Right.
I'm not talking
Instead
about
of-
white
so
supremacy.
it's not the white savior, white supremacy, but it's a multicultural
Yeah,
narrative.
and at the same, because sometimes it does, depending on what type of ears you're using, I've seen this and been in environments where there's certain Caucasian people who are in the minority that sometimes say, hey, you know, wait a minute, they don't hear me.
Thank you.
What did he say?
So, okay. I think there's a whole conversation we could have about what you're bringing up. That's what my sense of, so I think what you're bringing up is, you have totally the right to bring it up, right? That's why we're here in this room and everyone's got a right to say something. But it sounds like a deeper conversation would be like we'd like to have a deeper conversation on that. And I want to really invite y'all, like part of what we're trying to do is actually open space. So just really notice the ways in which, like, even if we hear something that's like, oh, I don't 100% agree with that, I'm not feeling that, how do we stay open enough to keep engaging in it, right? Because we're going to actually want to engage a lot of narratives right now, okay? So just try to practice that. Family histories. Family histories across the board, that's great. Yes? Resiliency. Right? Beautiful. Yes?
Just from an infrastructure standpoint,
Yeah.
there's a lot of conversation, not just about the need for equipment,
Yeah.
the need for individuals and kind of back end support when it comes to how do you, because there are a lot of the projects that everybody's talking about, media projects, where do you find the industry professionals that are here and bring them all together to make sure these projects can happen kind of.
That's great. Everyone heard that?
No.
So, it wasn't just about getting the equipment and being able to share that, but also the individuals who have the skills to be able to serve a lot of and support a lot of these different projects. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So how do we not only connect with the existing networks,
Yeah.
but support them financially that already exist?
Did you hear that? Yeah. So I think that's one of the really big ones, is how do we actually say this is a city full of resources, full of people with skills who've been doing the work for a long time, and how do we make sure these projects actually feed that? And that's what we've been talking about with this. There's folks who have been like doing it on the hustle. So you give like $5 to that person, they make a same film as someone who's like, I need a $3,000, you know. So we just want to balance those decks too. Anyone else? It's okay. Not sure it's fine.
Something that I saw online about testing for lead, and I don't know the exact story, but I could, but something where you take a quarter and you put it on your water thing outside, and if it's a certain color rather than something else, and that's what I'm saying.
That's it. You
I
wanna
shouldn't
see a
say,
project
that's why I was
around.
hesitant, and you can tell. So that's without spending a lot of money. There's
Yeah.
ways to find out how we have what we have.
That's great.
And thank God, Flint was not even bittersweet, it was just bitter, but it was a focal point to go national and international. And I know more people are getting aware that we have to have unity and take care of each other's health needs and everything else. So if I can find out the exact article, I'll
Share
send
it
it to your space or to Lottie or someone, and then they'll know exactly how to do it.
That's great. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put up here, we have some next steps from this that I just want to share out with everyone really clearly, like what happens next and what do you do next with us. And it includes our contact information. Oh, maybe it doesn't. I'll add our contact information to it real quick. So first things first, we're going to take all this feedback that you've given it to us, and we're going to use this to actually shape the application that we're creating. So the application will include, here are some of the core narratives that we want to see shifted. Here's some of the ideas we want to see it shifted to. So folks have that, they can move into that, flow into the stream of concepts that you already put out. On the back, as you're leaving, we put up another sheet, and we're asking you to just give us best practices and tips for how you want the application to look. So imagine yourself as someone who's actually filling out the application. what is it going to make it the most accessible, the most easy, something you can really share with folks in your community, really thinking who doesn't usually get access to this stuff, and how can we make sure we turn up the access, right? So for those of us who are like, I'm online and I go fill it out, I'm submittable and whatever, right? There's a lot of folks who are already doing that, and we're not reaching all of our folks. So how do we make sure that this application can really work for everybody? So on May 10th at the Charles Wright, we're going to be doing another public forum, and at that one we're going to be launching the application, sharing back some of the information from all the data we've been gathering. So it's going to be a different format. We won't be doing this same workshop. It'll be a whole new experience, so come on out. And then in July, we're going to be notifying the selected projects in the world about this. We're asking folks, when you came in, you were invited to sign in, the sign-in sheet. That's one of the ways we're going to be staying in touch with everyone. We also have a Facebook page, and we have a Twitter, and we have an Instagram, and we even have a Snapchat. But I didn't put that up here because I don't know how to use Snapchat yet. But I'm going to learn so that I can use it so that we can share with all of you. But Facebook has been the main place so far. That's where we posted this event. Many of you came and posted that page. If you have announcements that you want to share with each other to generate, to build this community, if you have resources, if you're looking to partner with someone, right? If you're like, I really have a skill set, I want to make a film about da-da-da, post it on that page so maybe someone else can find you in that way. We want to really encourage you to think outside the box and collaborate with other folks. And to tweet about this. So like I mentioned at the very beginning, if you tweet, hashtag DNA Forum, so that we can see what folks are talking about, because that's another way that feedback flows back to us, is that we can track that. Be like, someone was like, I really liked the event, but I didn't like that I had to stand up for the small group part. All right, we'll adjust. So the next time you don't have to do that, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, that might have been a feeling you had. I don't know. That's how I would have felt. So that's all the data that we wanted to give you. That's the full workshop that we wanted to offer. There is one more thing that we want to touch on before we leave, and I'm going to ask Linda to come on up now and share with us a little piece of information about the CBA. Everybody give her a hand. Miss Linda's been working very hard for a very long time, loving on this city. You may know her as a superwoman of Detroit.